Hey everybody, Jimmy from Superpath here. Thank you so much for checking out this tutorial series with our newest partner, Butterdocs. Designers have Figma, developers have GitHub, and now content marketers have Butterdocs. This is a really cool product. I'm very excited about it. Not only is it a nice place to actually get your writing done, but it's also purpose-built for teams to work together. So writers, editors, clients, stakeholders, etc. It's built for these people to all work together, collaborate, provide feedback, etc. You'll see all of that. Rob gives us a demo. We go through each part of the product and show you how it works, how you can fine tune it for your own processes. It's great stuff. I think you'll really like it. If you want to check it out, you can get instant access. Just go to butterdocs.com/superpath. You get 30 days totally free. If you do want to upgrade, you can do it for just $100 a year. That's 70% off the list price. And if you want to just continue using it for free after that, you can use 3 documents for free as long as you like. So go check it out and provide feedback. Part of the reason that Butterdocs is working with Superpath is so that they can learn what content marketers want out of this product, and they will build it in. So please do provide your feedback to the Butterdocs team and help them build a product that is exactly what you want. So again, it's butterdocs.com/superpath. Thanks so much for checking out these videos and enjoy. Okay, so you've just finished writing the first draft of your article in this peaceful environment, and now you have to send it out to get feedback. This is where it gets messy, I think. Feedback, editing, iteration, kind of like different teams have different ways that they approach this. It is an opportunity for a lot of chaos. That's the word that Butterdocs attaches to this. And I think that's probably the perfect word. There's actually an article on the Superpath blog called Iteration Does Not Equal Editing. You know, it's sort of this idea that like a lot of people doing stuff in a document does not necessarily mean better content. And actually it probably doesn't unless it's quite organized. Part of what Butterdocs is doing is adding that layer of organization to editing so that it's very easy for people to provide feedback, for example, on one part of it, right? If you set a status on a block so that you know if that's been reviewed or not. Among many other things. But before we dive into the solutions, Rob, maybe could you kind of paint a larger picture of like, you know, in doing some of your customer research, like what are people saying about editing? Where does it go wrong? What are the complaints? And then how are you building solutions for those things?
Yeah, it's funny. And when we talk to writers about this process and content leads about this process, it's just stuff that people have been like reserved to dealing with. But then when we start actually talking about it, like people start getting like really upset. Like really uncomfortable. Yeah. And it's like, okay, we're on to something then, right? So I think what we can do here is just kind of talk to one thing after another that can be really chaotic or be a nuisance or cause anxiety or really slow down the process. And what happens is all of these things add up to making it just take a lot longer to get things done. It also, like I said, it creates anxiety and makes it kind of the relationship a little strained sometimes. If you as a content leader are not aware of the status of your writing, you know, that's a problem. You know, you start wondering about the quality, you start wondering about when I'm going to get it, are we going to meet the deadline and all these things. You're being stressed. But if you as a writer, you're writing and then you're seeing your client or you're seeing the content lead jump in there before you're ready, that's also kind of stressful, right? You're not going to be, writing right then. So that's really the first one that hits home when I talk with writers is this problem of anonymous elephants. So I feel like I can say that and you know what I'm talking about right away, right?
For sure. Yeah. Like nothing makes my like creativity slow down more than the feeling of someone looking over my shoulder.
Right. So, I mean, in Google Docs, if you're not aware, you could be just writing peacefully. You finally found some time to focus and get in that writing zone. And because a content leader typically has access, full access to a document, they can jump in, or maybe anyone that you have shared the document with in the past can jump in, whether they're signed in or not. And if they're not signed in, you're going to see a little anonymous badger or elephant or giraffe in the upper right-hand corner. And to me, it's like way worse when it's anonymous, right? Where it's who is this creepy? But even if it's not anonymous, even if you see the person jump in, you're probably not ready yet. Like you're you're in a focused writing zone. You just want to be able to focus on that and not worry about someone peering over you as you're writing. You're going to start second guessing what you're putting down, like the words that you're putting down on the screen, because you're going to think that they're going to start judging every single word that you put down on the screen. So that's not a comfortable place for a writer. So it doesn't usually last very long. What happens is typically what a writer will do is just create a copy of that document to go write in privately. And then that's creating some new kind of problems, right? As a content leader or an editor, you now lost visibility completely.
Yeah.
You don't know what's happening. What's also happening is now you're creating another document that you have to manage. You have all your writing in this document. It needs to be delivered in this other document. Whenever you're ready, you might copy and paste it from one document to the other. But what happens when you start going through the editing process? Are you going to just copy and paste the edits and the comments back over there? It gets really messy, right? So that's one big issue that we've seen over and over and again is, anonymous elephants and dealing with the pros and cons of real-time collaboration. Another thing that happens in this process is, say, okay, you have passed it off to the content lead as a writer, or you've passed it off to other people in your company to get feedback. And now what you're doing is you're waiting around for that feedback to happen, and you're going in and you're checking the document and trying to see if it's been added yet. Maybe they've been using their own draft as well, and it's been sitting there and they forgot to message you. So that's a big dilemma. It's just figuring out when is the editing or the feedback done? When is it ready for it to be reviewed? Then another problem will happen whenever, okay, they've added all their feedback. They have a ton of comments. You pop into that document and you just see tons and tons of comments. At that point, as a writer, you're stressed out as well, because how do you even start working through those comments? Google Docs makes it especially messy because, say, if you just want to move content around and you say, the editor is like, actually, I like this bit up here instead of down here, that's going to delete. It's going to strike through the content here and add it in up here. And so what happens is it just gets messier and messier. We like to call it spaghetti editing. And it just starts becoming really hard to unravel. A member of our team said, hey, really stress how wet it can be, of how messy it can be. It's true. It feels like you just spilled spaghetti all over your document when
that's funny.
Someone comes in and just tears it apart. So in that scenario, you probably just feel like you got to start over. You got to create a third document. You got to create a whole other document to start fresh. So these problems really start compounding on each other. And then say you didn't you don't have good control over the permissions, or someone jumps into the document, and whether they're anonymous or not, but they have edit permissions. Then you have to worry about, did someone edit something or delete something without being able to see what happened, because they can just edit freely without change tracking,
right,
or without change suggestions. So that's pretty stressful too. And we've talked with enough writers to tell you it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Even if it's an accident, you just forgot to change the settings. But most of the time, the writer won't necessarily have the control over that. Other team members or the lead is going to set the settings of the document. So, they don't necessarily have control of whether that editor, that lead, is going to come in there and change things. So again, that adds more stress, that adds more anxiety in the editing process. So far what we've covered anonymous elephants kind of appearing at you as you write. We've covered this issue of knowing about the status of when something is being edited or done edited and done being reviewed. We've talked about what happens whenever, okay, you can jump in and there's a ton of comments and a ton of strike-throughs, and how do you make sense of it? And I want to talk about another kind of dynamic that we've seen happen is what happens is when there's a single catch-all document like this, it turns into one person being the de facto editor, really giving out all these comments. And it's like, okay, they need to go through that process before someone else can add in their thoughts. Or there's just this pressure where it feels like I got to work through these edits now. And it becomes kind of a practice in like appeasement.
Yeah.
You're just having to like work through and accept the edit or change the edit and go back and forth and iterate and edit the edits. And over time, you're really starting to lose track of what the piece really originally meant to be, because you're just trying to get through the process. And, highest paid person's opinion or the lead or what have you is typically, going to just keep commenting until it's done. Right.
Right.
So that process of it being kind of one voice that's kind of dictating the rest of that process can be pretty daunting too.
Right.
Chaotic. The last thing I want to talk about before we go into the demo is, what do you do when you do need feedback and buy-in and additional kind of content from other people in the company? So if you need to get product marketing's buy-in, or you need to get information from sales or from customer success, we're just talking internally right now, inviting them into a Google document where there's already a ton of edits by an editor, that's a pretty daunting experience for them. And it makes it very difficult to get the feedback that you need from them. But say they did, say that they jump in and now they've added more comments and more feedback on top of the editors. How do you process that and manage that as a writer? That becomes even more and more difficult. So you kind of get to a point where you don't ask for that information. You don't share it with other people in your team. You don't include more people. You're just trying to get through getting the dang draft done. Right?
Yeah.
So that's another problem that we see come up. I mean, what do you think of it, Jimmy? Like, it's pretty chaotic, right? Like,
yeah, it's pretty chaotic. And like each of the problems you've outlined is like independently wouldn't be so bad, but it's like the collective nature of them that just makes it like kind of like slogging through the mud when you're trying to get a piece from draft to, ready to be published. So, it's like just the type of work that like, it's just usually not that fun to do, but it must be done. So like any way that software can make our lives easier here is really welcome.
Yeah. I mean, this is all stuff that we've dealt with, and it's just stuff that we're like, I mean, it's just a part of the process. Editing is difficult, and getting other people involved is difficult. And what we're trying to do at ButterDocs is say, hey, technology can solve these problems, or at least make them easier to deal with. Starting off with actually building feature sets and building a solution that's tailored to the editing process, and not, again, just one big real-time document. Right.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive in. Like, let's dive in one at a time. Let's talk about how you can solve these things in ButterDocs and make your editing process much easier, make it much easier for you to work with other people in your team. The result being you just have a lot less chaos to deal with, a lot less anxiety through the process. Everyone is more informed. And in the end, you're getting content done faster.
I love it.
So let's dive in. First, we're going to talk about how you can have a less chaotic real-time editing experience. So I'm going to jump in to the document again. And what you can see straight off the bat is all these people in the upper right-hand corner. We require anyone that jumps into a ButterDocs document, we at least have their name. So we're never going to have like an anonymous elephant that jumps into your document. You're going to see who is in the document, who is invited to the document is going to be faded out, who is live right now is going to be in color and have the green little marker there, so you know who's in the document. You also see that everyone has their own color. So whenever you come in and anyone makes any type of change, it's going to be visible and it's going to be in the color of that person. So I can see all this text that was written here was written by me, Rob Carpenter. All this text here in pink was done by Micah. in the upper right hand corner, you can see. Now you see also up here in the upper right hand corner changes. So if Micah signed in into his view, that deleted that content I just deleted, if I delete this, he's going to see that I deleted that. And it's going to be in my color. And if I unselect changes, you won't see it. You can just focus on your writing, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't tracked. So in ButterDocs, everything is automatically tracked. Track changes is always turned on. You never have to worry about who did what. All you have to do to see that again is to select that on, and you're going to see the color coding of who did what.
Very cool. Already feels less stressful.
Yeah, right. Now you can also see it based off of writer and based off of revision, and other different things. This goes into the weeds. It's very powerful. In ButterDocs, you can save different draft versions, and you can see the changes from that previous version. I'll change it by revision there. So you always see that. All right. So now I want to show you how we work with comments in ButterDocs and how that you can really work through the edits, work through the feedback much easier, whether you're in real time or doing asynchronous editing. So I'm going to jump into a different document here. It's a document that we use to demo kind of creative writing. And what you can see here is, again, just a real clean writing environment, but we have a ton of comments in here. So it's not as over loading like your screen or really crowding your writing to adding comments in ButterDocs. You can add a ton of comments, and you just see them here on the right as little gray clouds. If you click on it, it will open up, and you can see the full kind of comment thread. And you're starting to see a little bit of the difference here on how we manage comments. So it's like with any other app, you can select text and add a comment on that selection right there. And, add in all of your thoughts. This could be said in a different way. One of our favorite pieces of feedback
Yeah.
to give a writer. And I'm going to add let's let the writer add a hashtag. So I'm going to hit submit, and then someone else comes in, and you're going to start triaging your comments. So you come into the document, you have a ton of comments to work through. What you can do is use tags to basically start tagging the type of comment and the type of edit it is. So let's just call that a voice pass to be kind. So we hit that comment reply with that tag. You can add tags at the very beginning as well, or in a reply. And the value of this is being able to then work through these comments based on these tags and create editing workflows based off of these tags. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to open the sidebar up. I'm going to go to comments, and I can see all of the comments for the whole document here. But what I want to do is work through a certain type of comment or a certain type of edit first. I'm going to go up here to settings, comment settings. I'm going to go to tag, and I'm going to select the comments and edits I want to work through first. Let's just do that voice pass that we just did. I've now filtered to just the comments with voice pass, and I can work through these.
That's cool. I like that. What a simpler way to go through an article if you're the writer and you're dealing with a bunch of comments.
Yeah, I mean, what this can do is you can develop a relationship with your editor and create a workflow as a team on how you go through the editing process and the types of edits that you do. So you might do like high level edits first, then you might work through a few other types of edits around product knowledge or information or other things you want to plug in. You might end with typos, right? So you can use the comments to kind of go through and create a process to work through. There's also a few other features here. You can filter on comments that just mention you. You can show resolved comments and hide resolved comments. You can show comments in deleted text. You can sort the comments by last reply, by date, by page.
Dang, that's
You
cool.
have a lot more control on how you work through your comments.
I've never seen any version of comments that was beyond just, comment, resolve, comment, resolve. That's really cool.
I find that crazy, Jimmy.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't believe you. I totally believe you. And it's also because I too have not seen any innovation on comments in any software. And that's insane. Like, everyone just feels they just add on comments and they have real time. So what we're trying to do at Butterdocs is really innovate on this process and say, hey, let's break the mold a little bit so we can really allow you to create a process, create a workflow that works for your team, that works for your writing, and helps you get through this process faster.
Really cool.
So I'm going to go back to the board, look at our outline. This is what we're doing throughout this series, using Butterdocs also for enabling a video series like this, because why not?
Yep.
So we'll see what we want to review. We just review comment tags and filters. The next thing I want to talk about is how should you be going through the writing, collaborative writing, and the editing process anyways. And what we just did was talk about and show you how you can do real-time editing easier. But in reality, you probably shouldn't be editing in real time. It's just not a great experience. And what happens is you're not doing it. Most writers are creating that, what we call a rogue draft, and they're writing separately. Most editors, when they're adding in all their comments, were wishing that it wasn't pinging the writer every time they added a comment. They want to add in all of their feedback first. Everyone feels like that page will get really crowded with comments and feedback, so then less people do it. So what we believe at Butterdocs is, like, everyone should have their own environment to be able to contribute their insights and give their feedback. And then it should be very easy to incorporate that feedback and incorporate those changes into your main draft. And then you as a content leader or you as a writer should have control over that process and not have to worry about things like your text being deleted from your main draft. So we have a solution on how to do this better, how to do asynchronous editing better. And we've built it into Butterdocs. It's now possible. You don't have to hack your way towards it and have all these different documents and have these different stages. You can do it within your workflow in Butterdocs. So how we do that is, instead of saying, hey, let's edit here in real time together, which, like, when you look at a real-time collaboration on a landing page on a website or in an ad, like, it looks fancy and cool. Like, yeah. I love cursors moving around and text being deleted and changed at the same time. But Jimmy, answer, like, has that ever really been like the ideal situation, like, where you want all this kind of edits to happen on the fly?
No, it's either synchronous or it's asynchronous. That's somewhere in the middle,
Yeah. Now, there's one exception, and I didn't mention this before, but another way that you can do real time better is in Butterdocs, you can jump on a Zoom call and have a face-to-face conversation while you're writing.
That makes a ton of sense.
That makes sense, right? If you're writing in real time in the same document at the same time, you can do that. That makes sense if you're on, like, a live call, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Without that, it doesn't really make sense. People want to have their own space and privacy to write and add in their feedback and then mark when they're ready for it to be reviewed. So to do that in Butterdocs, what you do is create a branch copy. You just hit branch copy in the upper left-hand corner. And then you basically give it a name. I'm going to call it Jimmy's draft, editor's draft, client's draft, designer's draft, subject matter expertise, expert draft, whoever you want to share a branch draft with. And basically a branch draft is a copy of your main draft, right? I can set who can see that branch draft. If I set it to all, then everyone invited to that document will see the branch draft as a tab in ButterDocs in your document. Or I can set it to just the invitees. And I can invite myself, or I can just invite Jimmy. So this might be valuable as a content lead. Again, you want to have visibility, but the better thing to do most of the time is to allow your writers to have their own space. And instead of them creating that document on their own, you can have control over that process. You can give them the document, and you have control on getting visibility on that eventually. So we can set it to where only Jimmy would have visibility on this, and then he can tell us when it's ready. Now, nice. I don't have that set up with you. Let's use our imagination a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and invite Jimmy. And what then gets added here is a place for a little bit of a brief. So I can change this text and say, hey, Jimmy, excited to get your thoughts on this. Feel free to go wild with edits. We can merge in what we want later to the main draft. And that's exactly what's going to happen. And you can say, hey, here's the type of feedback that I'm looking for, if you like, right? So I'm going to hit create. You can also control who can do the review and approval process. So I'm going to hit create. This is spinning up a copy of the main draft. And what you can do, Jimmy, or anyone that has access to this branch draft do is you can edit, you can change it, you can go wild here, you can add comments, you can still collaborate through the comments over here if you like before you do any changes of the main draft. But what happens is you can go wild in here. It's not going to affect the main draft. But click over on the main draft. Those changes have not been done. What this allows you to do is really give everyone their own space to write and to edit in and to give their feedback in. Whenever they are ready for the next stage of this, they can click on this little arrow and say, they can set the status from the beginning. They can say this is in progress. That then gives at least visibility to the rest of the team that, hey, I can't see the contents, but I can see the tab and I can see that it's in progress. Mm-hmm. So you can at least communicate on status on a branch draft. Or I can hit needs reviewed. That means I'm ready. And that'll send a notification out to the document owner that this person is ready for the content to be reviewed. You can then jump into the branch draft and go through the review process. You can also hit publish to collaborators. And then that's when all of the collaborators will now be able to see that draft, be able to go in and see it if you want to do it that way. So you can either publish to collaborators, everyone in the document can see it, or just the people that have access to that branch draft will get visibility when you change the status. So now, okay, we're in here as an editor, we're checking it out. The next step is to hit merge into main draft, and I can see the changes from the main draft that we made. I can actually see them side by side as well. So I can see what the main draft looks like versus the branch draft. And then I can, as the editor or content lead, can hit accept or discard. I'm going to hit, I'll hit accept just to show the example. Obviously, I would accept a bunch of gibberish, but I accepted it. And you can go through down the whole list of all the edits, all the changes. They could be wild changes. This makes it easy to kind of work through the differences. Like I said, you can also work through the differences in the comments in the branch draft. But whenever you're ready, you hit merge into main. Confirm merge. And now that change has been made in the main draft, and you can see the color who made the change.
Very cool. That's really cool.
Now you saw that tab go away. It's still there. So you just go to drafts and you can see that Jimmy's draft is there, and any past draft that you ever created is there. You can click on a past draft and change status or changes to a made sense this snapshot and enable revert mode. And here's where, okay, I can see the changes that were made between that branch draft that we created and a previous draft version. So if we messed up and merged something on accident, we can still go back into any past draft and see the differences. It can be the last draft or it can be any past draft.
Right.
We can see the differences. And then here's the real power. Like, we don't have to revert the entire past version like you would have in Google Docs, where you have to restore a previous version or a backup. You can come in here and revert that exact change. So I merged this gibberish. That was a mistake. I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to revert that change. And now when I go back into the main draft, it has been reverted. So
that is cool.
In that way, again, there's unlimited undo. Like, you're not going to lose any words in ButterDocs. You have complete control over what edits get done. And even if some edits slip through the cracks, you can go back into the past history and revert those edits.
Super cool. What a powerful way to just like gain so much control over your feedback and editing process, particularly for teams who they got a couple cooks in the kitchen, which is very common. Things need to be approved. You might have an in-house editor and a freelance editor. It's just, what an awesome way to just like have a really customized, powerful process. So awesome stuff. I love it. Hey, and thanks so much for checking out these videos. ButterDocs has been an awesome partner of Superpath. We really appreciate their support. Again, you can go check it out, butterdocs.com/superpath. Get instant access for free for 30 days. And if you want to upgrade, $100 for a year. Thanks so much. Take care.